Hello and welcome to Limerick Pro Show. I'm Sean Finnan. Today on my show I have Dr Niall Keegan, course director of Irish music and Irish traditional music courses at University of Limerick, to talk about the upcoming North Atlantic Fiddle Conference held in UL this week. Do you want me to call you Niall or Mr. Keegan or
Yeah,
Professor?
call me Niall. Jesus, don't call me Niall or anything like that. No, Niall will do. Don't
Okay.
call me Mister or Doctor or anything like that. No, please don't. Yeah.
Do you want to bring up anything? Do you want to include anything that I probably wouldn't know about already?
I suppose. I mean, the thing about the NAFCO, there's the sort of the three. There's four main platforms. There's a performance platform, and we want as many people to tune into those gigs as possible. Um, so that we have like the Rhiannon Giddens and the Unthanks gig tomorrow night, which will be interesting. It's well, Rhiannon is local now. You know, she's actually living in Limerick, but yeah, you wouldn't see her out playing too often. And the Unthanks are, they're the English-based band. They're sort of a folk band with they're sort of it's very English, and so you'd be hard to find here, and they're fairly popular. They're doing very well. And I'm not just saying that because my sister plays in the band, but and then we have on Thursday night we have a fiddle night there's a Clareman, Brendan Mulcair, who is a great fiddle player and a great teacher of music in London. As you probably can tell from my accent, I wasn't born here. I was sort of raised. I moved to Ireland in 1990, and I haven't been deported yet. I came from London. I learned my music in London, and those days were different days. There were, as we say jokingly, we were the Al Qaeda of our day. And we were very much ensconced in this Irish community, and you either played Gaelic football or you played music. Or did Irish dancing. I wasn't built for the Irish dancing or the Gaelic football. So I played music, and Brendan was a very influential teacher of music, and he taught me a lot, and I'd known them well. So there's two fiddle players performing who have been probably his star his pupils, John Carty and Claire Egan, who really probably individually created a different voice for traditional music in London. I suppose a really sort of hardcore trad version of the Pogues. The Pogues get created this whole new image and sound for being second generation in London, and for just traditional musicians likes of Claire and likes of John produced a really sort of authentic but different sound for us. So that's important. Friday night is a sort of great hodgepodge of different types of fiddle players. We have fiddle players from all over the States. We have headlining it. We were very lucky to have Paddy Glacken, who is a great Donegal Dublin based but Donegal fiddle player, and Donal Lunny. These are the two original road warriors. Paddy would have been the very first lineup of the Uber, the first, the first ever really cool trad band with a botty band in the 70s, and Donal was in it. So Donal is famous throughout the world. So we're really glad of that. That's gonna be a nice gig. And then in the evening time we have Frankie Gavin and his band, which is a bit of a coup for us. Frankie is great. He's a sort of a lad who wouldn't. Is just such a profile, working with the Dannon and working throughout the years, and just he's one in a million. So he has this new, it's a new band he formed just before all the COVID stuff started, called Provenance. When he won his Gradam Kjol, he won that Gradam Kjol in 2019. He had them performing with him there. It's basically, I don't think he'd mind me saying, it's the Frankie Gavin girl band. It's himself and four female fiddle players, and actually a female piano player now, and a bouzouki player. But it's again a really nice sound. Frankie's take on that fiddle band idea, which is really, really good. So they're the big things. We have lots of conversation events in conversation with. We have an in conversation with Frankie Gavin. We have because we're at university. We like talking about music. We perhaps talk about it too much, and then we have our lunchtime concert series. I'm playing on the one on Friday, but every day there's one, and then that's the main platform. And we have workshops that we're running online, 2-hour workshops, focusing on fiddle and dance. Every afternoon on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 3:15 to 5:15, and then 2 to 4 on Saturday. that's a bit of a nuts sort of arrangement of fiddle workshops. You do tend to find fiddle workshops that, you'll go to the Irish festival and there'll be lots of Irish fiddle players, and then there'll be a Canadian festival, and that's where the Canadian fiddle players live. This type of festival brings them all together. So we'll have a Quebecois and a Newfoundland and a down-home country-style fiddle, as well as your Irish fiddle class, and as well as your Scottish fiddle class. So in that way, it brings back these sort of traditions. It brings these traditions which have the same historical roots. I mean, all those fiddle players. The fiddle came to Ireland for the Scots-Irish. It's all those DUP people who are beating themselves around the heads at the moment up north and falling out. They brought the fiddle to Ireland, and they brought the reels and a lot of the tunes to Ireland, and then a lot of them buggered off to the States and established the Canadian traditions and the sort of the Appalachian traditions that we know. So we sort of bring them back together. And it's great, and it's great for young fiddle players to be able to see that. And then, again, of course, the dance is all related. So no, it's a nice festival in that way, that it sort of brings it brings these sort of very diverse communities with very common roots together. And then we have our conference, because again, we're a university and we like our conferences. We have a lot of chalk and talky stuff. It's not the heaviest conference in the world. I mean, it's in that there's an awful lot of people who are practitioners, people who play the music, who wouldn't be perhaps academics as such, will go along to it and will actually present papers at it as well, which is nice. And again, it's about academic conferences can get very, very, very dry, and this is the antithesis of it. This is something different, where where people can get together and they can share share ideas between academics and performers, and that's good. It's especially good for the academics. Then we have a website that's going to go up tomorrow, which will have resources. Again, the idea of this festival was that originally there would be communal engagement, so we'd have workshops in the national schools. We had great plans to do things with Sing Out with Strings through the ICO. We'd have workshops in secondary schools and with Cultus, and of course all that went when we were forced online. So what we've done is we've created sources online, which it's not up yet. It'll be, hopefully, if I get around sometime tomorrow morning, probably around 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll get that up. But with resources, I have songs created aimed at primary school kids, young by Kill Connected. So it's with an association with a commission they have with the National Concert Hall. Just kids' songs around traditional music and traditional dance. So you have somebody. Some of it's quite surreal. There's at some point there's the leader of it, Thomas Johnson, playing his low whistle, dressed up as a badger. And Anya McGeaney is a heavily pregnant rabbit playing the fiddle, but it's very much aimed at young kids, junior infants, first class kids, so that they'll be up tomorrow. And then again, aimed at the secondary school kids. What we decided the easiest thing that we could do is we could bring our sort of the resources that we have as a university, and we have our BA in Irish music and our BA in Irish music studies and all the research that we have. So we're creating resources to help support the Leaving Cert and Junior Cert curriculum around ideas like regional styles, instruments, how ensembles are put together. So I mean, there's a lot going on. Basically, I've thrown everything at you. I suppose the thing that most accessible thing for people would be the gigs. And in particular, I think the Frankie Gavin gig, and I think the tomorrow's launch gig is going to be good too. So yeah, they're the most accessible things, but there's a lot going on. It's an awful pity it's online, but we had to run it. There was no way we couldn't run it. We want to avoid the cancel culture. It's very easy to cancel things because of COVID, and bugger it, COVID isn't that. It's not the boss of me.
I didn't know what route you were going to go down there when you started talking about cancel culture.
Well, I have my own small little take. but go on.
No, go continue.
I think that's I mean, that's all I have to say, really. I mean, it's I mean, that's it really. We have our performance thing, our workshop thing, our conference thing, and our resources thing, and they're the main platforms on which this floats. Again, it's usually I mean, it was held in Derry, I think, in 2012, and that was actually quite a big festival. There was a massive budget. The one you measure in millions, or fractions of millions, rather than our budget, which is considerably smaller. I mean, again, if you do it right, and we have to thank Creative Ireland, because they came up with an awful lot of the resources for us, and the university came up with resources too, and the Limerick, Pippa Little and her team inside the city and council, they've been really, really good. They've been really, really good in letting us. They supported the ideas. I mean, I'm always in awe of people like Pippa, she comes from a visual arts background, a curatorship background, where she'll just look at the likes of me, who's coming from a traditional music background or a music background, and she trusts me, and that sort of trust is that's invaluable, and that's worth guarding and minding, and she's really shown our trust in the delivery of that. So they've been really, really good. The university's been good. Again, we've had a really strange year. We're perhaps the only department, the department in the place that's been the most open with our music stuff. Teaching the bands online ain't doable. You can't do it. So we've had a position where we've had students in the building, very highly regulated, 1 week in 3. And then and very heavily policed, and me wandering around the place with the face mask on, shouting to people for social distancing and going on proper one-way systems and everything. So we've had a particularly stressful year, but we've managed some contacts, and this is the end of it now. This is our final hurrah. If I have to do anything online in September, I'm going to go sick.
To bring up something you mentioned earlier about how the bringing together of all these artists and all of these traditional music artists, kind of always, all the difference kind of all came from the same roots. Yeah, like you obviously involved in the Nomads organization in UL about protecting and enriching the traditional from other places, from other countries that come to UL, and you also
Yeah, I mean, it's really important for us. I think it's very easy to get caught up in your own little musical world in particular, or any genre-based world. And traditional music is probably one of the worst worlds for doing it. I mean, the traditional musicians tend to, they listen to diddly-eye, and then they listen to a certain type of diddly-eye, and it can get very, 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 very restrictive, and that's not good. That's not good for arts. It's not good for music. It's not good for a tradition. It's not good for people. So that engagement outside. I mean, Nomad was a particular project we had with working with the traveller community, which is, I mean, the funding all changed. So we said there's a legacy of it, but it's not really an active project. But we have lots and lots of internationalization projects. We have a lot of projects. Look at the Erasmus Plus. So we've just actually we made a video with colleagues in the University of Addis Ababa and UCC. Not University College Cork, the University of the Cape Coast in Ghana, and just doing some online sort of interactions between Ghanaians and Ethiopians and Irish playing tunes together, and that's really, really valuable. That's really important to us. We have an exchange with the University of Bir Zayt in Palestine. Again, which is personally really, really important to me, that we can make a relationship with a course that's about primarily Arabic music, but we're both opening up and engaging each other, and also maintaining sort of normal sort of relationships and musical relationships, and we can learn a lot from each other in doing that. So those sort of international engagements of the world, I think, is really important for the Irish World Academy. It's a big part of what we do, what we stand for. I mean, we have I suppose the flagship for that was we have a BA in world music, where you can come as a classical flute player, and you'll play classical flute, and you'll have your classical flute class, but also you'll bring your classical flute into the Arabic music class, and you'll join the African drumming class, and you'll engage that sort of a more democratic world of music making. Universities are very good at creating hierarchies. Classical music is the most complicated, and it's the best, and it's the Classical music is wonderful, but if you tell people for long enough that it's the best music in the world, they will stop believing you. It's so that I suppose that internationalization, that democratization is really, really, really important to us. And I suppose NAFCO, in its own way, is a part of that. Again, it's music's mostly coming out of first world countries, but we're sort of closely related, and we have to mind our first cousins as well as our distant relatives too.
And the idea of the music, the traditional music being restrictive, obviously ties into the involvement of trying to get younger people in the education cycle into it, and how you mentioned before in, I think, one of your articles for the Journal of Music, the idea of like language, about how people talk about traditional music can shape how shape how the genre can see itself, and that's how like the papers and the elections and talks at the conferences can help to change that.
Yeah. Absolutely, that's true. I mean, again, my research is I'm very much focused on ideas around language and music, and what musics do. They generate their own language, and the one thing is, if you generate a highly specialized language, no one else is going to can understand it, and it has to be somebody's job to try and make those bridges, to do those translations. Otherwise, you're going to be lost. And for years and years and years, traditional Irish musicians, I mean, traditional don't use words like artistry or arts or creative practice or improvisation. They do all those things. But they don't use the words. So for years and years and years, traditional musicians didn't get funded by the Arts Council because they were using the wrong words. And that's tragic. You end up in a situation where we have a massive community of arts practice that's thriving and doing well. It doesn't recognise by the state, doesn't recognise by funding, that breeds bad feeling. It breeds division. And that can be found anywhere. And I mean, and music is important in sort of building communities. And again, back up north, I'm a great fan of Orange bands. I mean, if you ever listen to it, the terrible thing is the Republican bands are not half as good as the Orange bands. Some of the flute playing is amazing. And in there's those sort of engagements, getting over the hatred and the bigotry and the difference, and finding ways to talk to each other is really important. I think and music's really important for us all. And no matter what sort of music you're playing, it's important to have your eyes open and to be looking elsewhere. Now, of course, I'm an academic. One of the terrible, an academic musicologist or an ethnomusicologist disease is you get to appreciate everything and love nothing. But I think I've grown to try and keep my love of different types of music alive, and that's important. You hear that difference, that wakes me up, and I go, oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
So if you want to appreciate everything and love everything, you could tune into the North Atlantic Fiddle Conference from the 23rd to the 27th of June.
That's it. That's it. If you want to hear something slightly different, if you want to hear, again, I'm terrible for using the term diddly-eye. I like that term, but if you want to hear some diddly-eye with a twist, slightly different. So it's some stuff that you may think, yeah, that's right, I want that, and then then listen to the Quebecois fiddle player who has their tunes are a bit too long, or they don't span properly, and that sort of difference, that's intriguing, and that can be a really great space for creativity.
No, thanks for coming on today.
I hope I've given you enough shit.
No, that's totally fine.
Yeah, if you have anything else, give me a shout back.